everybody, this is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and I have my design team project for you today. We're going to start with the tutorial, and I know you guys have seen the walkthrough. I did the walkthrough video. We're going to get started on the tutorial, but let me show you a few things before we get in on the pages. This album is a big one. It is meant to be for babies' first year, so it's going to start with basically an area for pictures of when baby's born, and then a page for each month until the last inside cover will be for baby's birthday, first birthday. So this is going to be a big album. This is quite wide, but it will hold an entire year's worth of photos. Let's talk about the cover first. So the cover, I'll open it up so you can see the whole thing. I used heavyweight chipboard, and I do have my little post-it note here, so let's take that off. I used the lay flat method for this, and I do have a video that I will link below if you're unfamiliar with that method, but I'm going to give you all the measurements that you need to do that method, and it turned out beautiful. The chipboard that you will need, the heavyweight chipboard, you'll need two pieces that are 6 3/4 by 8 1/2. Those are for the front and back cover, and then a piece that's 3 1/2 by 8 1/2 for the spine. And it is that wide because we will have 6 pages in here, and there is a 1/2 inch between each page. So again, it is a wide album, but it will hold a ton of photos, and it will entirely cover baby's first year. So that's the first part with the chipboard. And then the second part is the cardstock that we use to cover this. And for that, I used natural artisan cardstock, and then this album, because it is so big, did take 2 packages of artisan cardstock. So if you need to order that, do order 2 packages. I think so far I've used like 36 plus pieces. So each pack has 24. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much you need. So at least a pack and a half. So the artisan cardstock to cover the front and back covers, you need 2 pieces that are 8 3/4 by 10 1/2, and then for the outside of the spine, you will need a piece that's 6 1/2 by 10 1/2. And then the piece that covers the inside of the spine, you're going to use a piece that's 6 by 8 3/8, and then you're going to need 2 pieces that are 6 5/8 by 8 3/8, and those will cover the inside, front, and back covers, okay? And I'll explain that in just a second. But those are the pieces that you will need to do that. And again, the lay flat method is what I'm using, and I do have a video for that. I will link below so you can see it. So then on the covers, here is what we did. So I did get this absolutely gorgeous ribbon here, and this is sold at Country Craft Creations, and she had it special made for this paper collection. It is amazing, so you won't find this anywhere else. This has the Pooh print on it, and it is a grosgrain ribbon, and it's absolutely just stunning. I mean, it's perfect for this. And I did get this after the fact from my design team package, so I did do a little quick sneak peek and ribbon share video on this. So I did use that for the closure of this album, and I put that in between the covers and of course the paper on top. So on the front and the back, I did layer the pearlescent paper that I got in my design team package with some of the pattern paper. Okay, so since this is 6 3/8 by 8 1/2, I cut it. I cut the gold at 6 5/8 by 8 3/8, and then I cut the pattern paper a little bit smaller than an 1/8 inch. So I cut this at 6 3/8 by 8 1/8, I believe it was. It is. Okay, so that I could show a little bit more gold around it, because usually when I cover something, I cut it an 1/8 inch smaller. So I did do that with the gold, but the pattern paper, I cut it a 1/4 inch smaller than the gold, so it showed a little bit more of the border. Okay, the paper here for the spine, the gold is 3 1/2 by 8 3/8, and then the pattern paper is 3 1/4 by 8 1/8. Okay, so I did the same thing on the front that I did on the back, but then I did some other things before I glued it down. So on the back of this pattern paper and pearlescent. I added a little bit of score tape, and then I glued or I adhered the pom-pom trim all the way around, and then I glued that whole thing down because I loved this pom-pom and I really wanted to showcase it. And I think that it looks really cute kind of surrounding the cover like that. It just gives it, I don't know, a little something something. And then I decided to also use it to be the edge of the banner up here. These are from the ephemera pieces, and what I did was I took the piece of pom-pom trim and I added a little bit of score tape, and then I layered these on, and then I glued it all down, and I did pop it up with some foam dots. So the foam is kind of popping that up, giving it a little bit more dimension. And then you can see the little bumblebee stickers. I put those as kind of like in between all the little banner pieces. Before I laid this down, of course, I used one of the 4x4 cut-aparts here, and it was perfect for the title of the album. So I did border that with some more of the pearlescent paper and then a piece of the blue coordinating cardstock, and just kind of layered that. I used my favorite little corner punch, my little scallop corner punch that I love these days. I did use that in the album. And then down here, this Hello Baby is a sticker right here that I used a circle punch that I had that was 1 3/4 inches, and I punched a little bit of the blue, and then I bordered it with a scallop punch that I have in my stash. It's a 2-inch scallop punch that I put underneath, and then that is again popped up with pop dots. And then this button came from Country Craft Creations. This is some of Granny's buttons, and I believe they're called Porcelain Beige. And I had some left over from a previous design team package, and the colors, you know, of course, match perfect. So I went ahead and used some of these in this project as well. You can use any button you want, any color, you know, you want, but I thought the yellow was really pretty, and those are available at Country Craft Creations. So there was one that said, Happy Baby on it, and I thought with the baby, I just thought that button was perfect, so I used some of the blue twine from my design team package here. I put that down, and then these two here are stickers that I just used the foam dots underneath to pop them up. So these are all popped up with dots. These are popped up with dots. And then I did put a little bit of more of the pom-pom trim on the bottom edge of this cut apart that I used on the front. Now the spine, what I wanted to do here, and this is, let me see. I don't even know if I even have that piece of paper anymore. There was a 12x12 piece of paper that had the baby on it. And let me see. Nope, I used it. I don't have it anymore. But it was all up and down the side of the 12x12 paper, but it was too big for this space. So what I ended up doing was going to my sticker sheet, and I basically recreated this from the pattern paper because I really liked this for the center. And, you know, the blocks are just adorable, so I had to use them. So these are all stickers, and then I used the Pooh with his face in the honey pot at the top, which mimics what the pattern paper had on it. Okay, so that's the outside cover, kind of decorated there, and I think that's pretty much how it's going to stay. And then on the inside, let's talk about the inside. So on the inside front cover and the back cover, we're going to have a accordion pocket with a waterfall on top of it. And I still obviously have to finish decorating, but my thoughts were that this was going to be baby's birth, and then the pages will be months 1 through 12, and then we've got baby's birthday will be here. So I'm gonna show you how to make the pocket, because we're gonna put another one on the back inside cover with the waterfall here. Okay, and then inside the pocket, I did make one insert that I will show you, and I still obviously need to redecorate or decorate it, but we are going to make inserts for this. The Natural Artisan cardstock is 6x8, and then I used pattern paper that is 5 7/8 by 7 7/8, and then I did use the leftover coordinating cardstock, and I cut some mats that were 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then this one is 4 by 6. So you could put a photo on here, and then I will show you. I used this. So this ribbon here, I got after the fact, and when I saw it, it had to be used for the closure of the album. Originally, I was going to use this as the closure of the album, and then I was trying to think, okay, so what else could I do with this ribbon? And I decided to use this throughout the album as a pull tab to take the tags out of pockets and things, and that'll make more sense once we make our pages, okay? So I will show you how to do that. That's how we're going to use that ribbon here. And then also in my design team package, I did get a lot of seam binding, so that's going to close our waterfalls, okay? So our waterfalls are my stacked waterfall, and you know what, you guys, I was looking at the original video the other day, and it was like, it's been over 4 years that I've kind of come up with this aha moment of making these stacked waterfalls, and I just love them. But I left them blank pretty much intentionally. I might do a little bit of decorating, but I wanted lots of pictures of baby's birth because that's always a big picture moment. So there's lots of area for photo, and then there's another area here that you can also put a photo here. And then you've got this nice big pocket that you could put, you know, cards or extra photos or papers from the hospital, whatever you want to put. So that is that. And then when I talked about the cover cardstock, we'll go back to that for a second. There are two pieces that you need that are 6 5/8 by 8 3/8. That's this page here, because we need to have this chipboard covered to put the pocket on. So that's why you need those two additional pieces for this particular album. Normally I don't do that. I use pattern paper or something like that. But because we're putting this big full-size pocket on there, I wanted that chipboard covered. So that's where that came from. Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, the 6 by 8 3/8. That piece is a little bit smaller than the 6 1/2 that covers the outside. And if you're familiar with the lay flat method, you have the wings that'll be over here, and that basically, since this one is less wide than the one that has the wings, it will kind of gradually taper down and won't be such a big kind of, I guess, drop off for, you know, making your covers smooth. I hope that makes sense. A lot of times what we do is make it a little bit bigger so it covers all of the wings. This one I made just a little bit smaller. Okay. So there's that. So now what we're going to need to do now is we're going to work on the pages, get those in the book, and then we'll work on this. And then, yeah, it's going to be really easy. All of the pages are done the same. So you don't have to worry about that, but you are going to need, like I said, a lot of paper. This is going to go through quite a bit, but again, I think it's very worth it, and it's quite a lovely album, and it's going to hold a lot of photos. So you will need 6 base pages that are 6 3/4 by 8. And then let me find I gotta find my stuff, you guys. I'm in a temporary space because we had some issues with my craft room ceiling, and they're getting addressed. But now right now I'm in my office, my little teeny tiny office in a very small space with very few supplies. So I'm trying to make do with my temporary space. So if my lighting and stuff is off, that's what's going on. So just bear with me. I should be back in my room hopefully in the next couple weeks. So I'm super excited about that. The repairs are going well and everything's great, and my husband's doing a fantastic job. I'm so excited. And we also have some friends that are helping us with it, and so it's been really cool. So I love that. Okay, so base page 6 3/4 by 8. You need 6 of these. You're going to put them with the 6 3/4 at the top, and you're going to score at half, which is the piece. The 1/2 inch is going to be what adheres to this album, and then you have a score at 3/4. That'll give you the 1/4 inch give space to kind of help the pages turn a little bit better and adapt to the inserts and the pockets and things that we're going to add to it. Okay, so again, 6 3/4 by 8. On the 6 3/4, score at 1/2 and 3/4. Okay, so then let's score the rest of it, and then we can just put it together. So we're going to add 2 large full-size pockets to this page. One will be side opening, one will be top opening. The side opening one will go on the front of the page. So this one is the front page pocket. You will need 6 of these that are 6 1/2 by 9. Okay, 6 1/2 by 9. We're going to start with the 6 1/2 at the top. We're going to score at 1/2, and then we're going to turn it with the 9 at the top, and we're going to score at, half, and at 8 1/2. Okay, this will be a full page on the front side opening pocket. Then we're going to have the back pocket, which will be a top opening pocket. You will need 6 of these that are 7 by 8.5. So with the 7 at the top, we'll score at half and at 6.5. And then we're going to turn it with the 8.5 at the top, and we will score at 1/2. Okay, so that's the back pocket, the back of the page. Then we're going to have 2 page flaps. One for the front, one for the back, and they are all, you'll need 12 of them all together. They are 5.5 by 8. You're going to put the 5.5 at the top, and we're going to score at 1/2. Okay, so you'll do that to all of them. You'll need 2 per page. That's why you need 12 of these. And then we're going to have what I'm calling tuck pockets, and these are 3 5/8 by 3 5/8, and you need 12 of these as well. One for the front page of the page and one for the back of the page. And these were actually designed because of the pattern paper. When I was, I've been asked before how I design my albums, and sometimes the paper just tells me what to do. And this time I had a full sheet of 3 by 3 cut aparts that were perfect for this album idea, and then this is where that came from. That's what gave me the idea to make the tucks the way I'm doing it, and you'll see it, but the paper kind of told me what to do. So that's kind of where this came from. So again, you need 12 3 5/8 by 3 5/8. I'm rambling again. So you're going to put it with 3 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at half, and then you're going to turn it, and then we're going to score at half again. Okay, so basically you're only going to score 2 sides in the L shape because the tuck is going to be this way. It's going to be kind of an open-ended pocket. Okay, so you'll need 2 of those. All right, so that's it for that. Let me put this away, and let's grab the base page. So now I've got everything kind of in the reverse order. So here's our base page. Got our 2 scores. Let's fold and burnish those. Do not miter anything on this base page. We want that nice and full size, okay? And then when you go to score long scores, I've said this before, I'll say it again because it is worth repeating. When you fold this over the first time, you want to really start at the center and work your way out because it does tend to give you straighter scores, okay? Especially on longer score lines when you're doing that, okay? So there's the base page. And then let's do the front page pocket. So I'm going to get my scissors, and we are going to miter this. We are going to miter the 1/2 inch here, and then it's a big pocket, so we're going to just cut straight across those corners where the scores meet, okay? And that'll help take bulk out of our project. I'm going to try, sorry, temporary space. I'm still getting used to it, okay? So we need to fold and burnish. I've done a couple of videos in here, and I've been playing with lighting, trying to get it figured out. Because I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a few more videos before I get my room completely set up. I'm basically I had to tear almost everything out, and then I'm going to reorganize, putting it back in, because I have been threatening to do that for a very long time, so I need to do that. All right, so we have our front pocket done. Let's grab our base page. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to take this off. I'll stick that up there. Grab our art glitter glue. And here's our pocket. It's going to be side opening. So our binding is here. The pocket will open up over here. So I'm just going to put glue on the side here. And then I am going to use my Scotch tape and do the tape trick, okay? Because I'm not going to put pattern paper in this deep pocket because it will cover the entire page, okay? So I'm just going to put it down right at the edge of that, those scores, okay? So I'm going to just fold those back just so they're out of my way and put this right to the edge of the pocket, and we're just gluing this edge right here. Okay, and I'm just making sure that everything is lined up and everything's matching. Okay. And I didn't do... I did. Okay. I did okay. I did okay. All right, so I'm going to glue that down, and then I'm going to press that inside here, burnish it down, and then I'm just going to put tape over this And it looks like I am going to run out of tape, so I'm going to have to find some more. And I'm going to make a mess too, because I do that a lot. All right, here we go. I'm going to put tape over here. That way anything that we put in our pocket will slide over that edge nicely. Okay, and then we're just going to glue the sides up. The other thing too is that in my office, this desk sits different than my other one. It's funny how you get, you know, used to your surroundings and then anything kind of throws them off a little bit. And then you'd love the way I have my lights right now because they're kind of attached to the drawers and cupboards up above this area. So sometimes when I'm standing up, I'm like hitting myself in the head. Okay, so here's our page. Binding is here. And then here's the pocket, the side opening pocket here. Okay, so then we're going to put the back page pocket on now. So the back page pocket, same concept, except it's going to be top opening. Okay, so we're just going to cut all of that just sharply right through. And again, fold and burnish. Okay. Okay. I hope you like this album. I know it's taking a lot of paper. It does take a lot of product, and I didn't have I don't have much left over for a second project. I really used a lot of product on this, but I really wanted it to be a substantial album that you could give as a gift, you know, to someone, obviously. This is a tremendous keepsake. All right, so I'm gluing that to the bottom of the page, and I'm just making sure that everything is nice and lined up. Yeah, and, you know, this is going to be a keepsake because this is something that Mom can use, you know, for the entire year. And then we are going to be using the pockets. I mean, there is a reason we're making these pockets. There goes the tape. As I told you, I was going to run out, but we got plenty for that. You know, you can add more to these pockets too. So this will really hold quite a lot. So I'm really excited about this. And I you know, have made quite a few baby album designs. And a couple of them are, you know, like year-long albums. And, you know, it's fun to try to figure out what you're going to do with them. And like I said, this one, the 3x3s really kind of ended up being the main kind of reason why I went this direction. Okay, so we have our back pocket on with the top loading pocket, okay? And then we have our front pocket on with the side loading pocket. So now we got our page flaps. On our page flaps, we're gonna do this miter. And I'll go ahead and miter them both. And they're just going to go onto one on the front and one on the back. So let's go ahead and fold and burnish. There's one. Let me get that out of the way. I'm trying to make it so you guys can see. That's the other thing too. Just trying to make sure that I'm in camera. That's kind of important, right? Okay, so the front page here, this is going to glue on the edge of the spine right on top of the pocket. That's all we're going to do with that. So one on the front, and then we're going to do the same thing on the back, except we're going to do the page towards the edge. I'll show you that. We're just going to do it together. So this goes right on top of the pocket, right on the, this is the front spine, and the give spacer here. Okay, that goes there, like so. All right. And then we're going to turn it to the back. This page is going to glue to the left side. So spine is over here, okay? So again, glue. I'm using art glitter glue. If you haven't used art glitter glue, you really must, because it is honestly the best. And, you know, artisan cardstock, I mean, there's no comparison to any cardstock that I have ever used. I'm not just saying that. It is the absolute truth. This stuff is amazing. I love how thick it is, because just it's 86 to 87 pound for the, you know, kind of the original, I guess, artisan cardstock. There is 100 pound out there. And we do have 65 pound out now for things like photo mats and things like that. But the kind of original artisan cardstock is 87-ish pounds. And it folds and scores and cuts and everything like a dream. Okay, so now this is what you have. Spine here, the front page flap. Here's your pocket here, excuse me, side opening. And then you turn your page. Your spine's over here now, you got a flap, and then here's your back page pocket, and that one is a top opening pocket, okay? So now what we need to do is the tucks. So let's take this Post-it off that and get those prepared. So the tucks are super simple to do. We're just gonna miter the 1/2-inch pieces, and then we're gonna go through that corner again, okay? So both of those like that. Now this is not only a place to put things, but also actually makes a closure for those page flaps that we just put on. And that will obviously make more sense in just a few minutes when we get the other pieces together, okay? So the tucks here, let's fold those two sides, and then I'm gonna grab my corner punch. And I really want to, what did I do with it? I hid it for myself, is what I did. Here it is. So I'm going to use my little scallop punch. I love this one. Okay, and I'm just going to punch that outer corner, okay? Okay, and then I'm going to take one for the front, one for the back, and it is going to go in the corner. So we're just going to line that up again at the very bottom corner, okay? And I'm not going to use tape on this one because the pattern paper will go underneath and cover these tabs, and I won't need to worry about that, okay? Because most of the page is going to show. So we have that. Okay, then I'm going to turn my page over, and we're going to put one over here, okay? So this is going to be the second pocket, or second little tuck, and that is going to go right here. So I'm going to take this off now. I could take all of these off. Okay, let's go ahead and glue this down. And these are where those 3x3 cut aparts that say 1 month, 2 month, etc. are going to go. So I'm going to glue that down right to the edge right there. Now, let me show you. We'll make those inserts, and that is what's going to close everything up, okay? Because right now, what you've got are flaps that are going to flap, right? But we had to make sure that when we're turning our main pages that they're not flapping around, right? We got to make sure that they're kind of closed. All right, so I'm calling these front page inserts because they're going to go into the side pockets on the front of each of the 6 pages that you're going to make. They measure 8 1/4 by 6 1/8. Okay, 8 1/4 by 6 1/8. You're going to put them with the 8 1/4 at the top. You're going to score down the center at 4 1/8. Okay, and then you're going to need an insert piece for the back pocket. You will need 2 pieces. You will need 6 pieces all together that are 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. You do not score this one. Okay, the next one for the back page will be 6 of these that measure 4 1/8 by 6 5/8. Okay, 6 of those. You're going to turn them with the 6 5/8 at the top, and you're going to score at 1/2. Okay, So that's all there is to that. The front page insert, we're just going to simply fold in half, make sure that everything's nice and lined up, and then burnish. Okay, so it just makes a nice little booklet. Then we have our back page insert, and we're going to miter where we scored at that 1/2 inch. Okay, and then when I put these together, because these are going to glue together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that when I glue them that the tab is on the back. And the reason why is because when I open this, I want this nice and pretty, and I'm going to leave this undecorated with pattern paper, and I don't want the tab to show. Okay, so I want it on the back. So you may have to trim just a little sliver off the bottom if it doesn't quite match up, but that's okay. That's easy to do. So you're just going to put these two together after you fold and burnish that, and then you're just going to grab your glue, and we're going to put glue on that tab. And fold that over. Okay, so you want that on the outside. Okay, open it up and make sure you don't have glue in the middle where you don't want it. Okay, and then there you go. Now if you need to trim, then you can just grab your scissors and just trim a wee bit off the bottom, and you're done. Okay, so we have our front page insert and our back page insert. So let me show you how this is going to work. Let's grab, where did my page go? Here's my page. Okay, so my page is here. The front page insert is actually going to open like this, kind of backwards. And what you're going to end up doing is put it into that pocket, and it'll tuck underneath that tuck pocket. And that is going to keep this flap closed. Then when you turn the page over, you have your back page insert. That will go into the top pocket, and it will tuck under that pocket and keep that flap closed, and it will be even stronger once you get your pattern paper on it. So that was the whole kind of premise to this whole thing. I was trying to think of a way to do a closure, use the 3x3s, and give lots of room for photos. Okay, so you will have a pocket here. You could put things in the pocket. You have opportunity for photos on this booklet. You have the page and then this page here. And then obviously you have a pocket where you can tuck things as well. And the same on the back. Okay, so that is that. Now I do want to show you about how we're going to do our little tuck pieces. Okay, so I do have my pattern paper picked out for my pages, and it's going to be pretty, I'm going to cover everything, well, almost everything, an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the place it's covering. Now in here, I'm going to put some photo mats. I'm going to do 2 photo mats from the coordinating cardstock that are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then use some of the ephemera pieces to decorate with that. But pattern paper will be here. The 3x3 cut aparts, I have those ready to go. Okay, so like here, that says 1 year old. That will actually be on the back cover because it'll be 12 months. Okay, 11 months will be on the front cover, like so. Okay, I will do that off camera so you don't have to see that. Pattern paper here, and again, like I said, coordinating cardstock photo mats here, pattern paper here. Then when you turn the page over, same thing. We're going to decorate the front of these, and I'm going to show you how to put those together in a second, because I'm going to show you how to do the ribbon. The 3x3 pattern paper on this page, photo mats, pattern paper. Okay, so I'll do that off camera so you don't have to watch that part, but I'll show you when it's done. And then let's do the inserts. So let's start with the front page insert. So this is the one that opens like a booklet to the side, and it will be on the front of the page. So this is going to be the front of this. Okay, it's going to open like so. I have my pieces kind of laid out now, sorted out. So this is the front insert. Okay, so we're going to have the score here and the opening here. This is the actual front of it because it will go into the side pocket like so. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to grab a piece of the gingham ribbon, and I cut it at 2.5 inches. Okay, this is going to be a pull tab on the side. So what I will need to do is get my ruler so I can kind of see what I'm doing, and I'm going to line this up and center that, and it's going to be about 3 1/16 of an inch in, and then grab some score tape. And you don't have to be super accurate with this, but just don't get it too close to the edge. And then put a piece of score tape down in the center. And then what you're going to do is take this 2.5 inch piece. We're going to fold it in half. And then I want this to stick out like 1/2 inch. Okay, so it's just about 1 inch wide. So I'm just centering it right there. And I'm making sure that when it's folded, that edge is about 1/2 inch. Okay. Then I'm trying to get it as accurate as possible. So then you're done basically with your ruler. I'm going to put another piece of score tape. Well, actually, you're not done with your ruler. Okay, so I'm going to put another piece of score tape. And then when I fold this in again and stick it down, I just want to make sure that that tab is sticking 1/2 inch over the top of that. Okay, like so. Okay, and stick that down. And then I'm going to... I use a lot of score tape on this. I want to make sure the tabs are going to get pulled, so I want to make sure it stays. And then we're going to secure it, okay? So then, once you're done with that, then we can put the pattern paper on top. So I chose these 2 pieces. Okay, I'm making sure that I got all the pattern papers cut out, and I want to make sure that I get them in their proper places because I had it mapped out. Okay, so I'm going to put glue on my pattern paper to cover this. So I'm going to just glue that down right over top, and then that's going to, in addition to all that score tape, it's going to help secure that ribbon, okay? And that's going to be a pull. Now you might wonder why I didn't put it on the other side, okay? Why I've kept it on the front, because when you open it up, I just thought it looked better to have it just on the one side, okay? So that's why I did it that way. But it has a nice little loop. It's not going to fray with lots of pulling, okay? And it's going to stay nice and secured underneath the pattern paper and then with all that score tape, okay? So then what I want to do is we'll go ahead and cover the back. So I'll give you the measurements of this just while we're talking about it, because I believe it's just 4 by 6, because this is 4 1/8 by 6 1/8, okay? And we'll glue on that, and then we'll put that down, okay? I'm going to leave the insides blank for now. I'm going to probably decorate with ephemera and things like that. But I also want to make sure that there's room for baby's photos, okay? So you can definitely put a photo here and put 2 photos on the inside. Now, if you leave this uncovered, definitely a photo here, but I wanted to use my cut-aparts, okay? So what I'm going to do is grab my punch again. And this one here, I already used Hello Baby in one place, and so I decided I really wanted to use this little cut apart here. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to alter that little cut apart. Now you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to punch these edges here, and these are 3 by 4s, and then I did cut a piece of the pearlescent paper, and these are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 to mat that card, okay? And what I'm going to do, and especially since this is going to be for month 11, we've already said hello to baby, so that's why I decided, the other reason I decided to do that. And then I'm just going to glue this down, and we're just going to create a pretty little decoration for the front of that, like so. Okay, I'm going to mat that. And then we have this little cut apart, and that will go over the top like so. Okay, so you can alter that if you want to. Now, if you want to use stickers or other ephemera or whatever, this is kind of a nice way of being able to do that. If you don't like what a journaling card says, you can always cover pieces up and do that. So that's going to go like that. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of plaid though, isn't it? Maybe I will do that on the back page. I think I'll do that. I'm going to center it. All right, you guys, I'm taking a turn here. U-turn. That's a lot of plaid too, but it looks a little bit better. I didn't even think about that until I was doing it. So let's just go ahead and put this one on here. Okay, whatever. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. I just think it shows up better on the other one as I'm looking at it. So yeah, we can always take a U-turn when we're decorating, right? So let me just get this one punched. Okay, and we'll glue this one down on this one. I like it better. I like it better. I think there's too much brown and all that with that plaid, and I just think, and there's a lot of plaid, but the other one has more blue in it, so it kind of stands out a little bit better. All right, let's put this one here. All right, I think I'm going to like that better. There we go. Okay, so let's put glue on this, and then I'm just going to center that. I'm going to eyeball center it, and that's going to be the decoration, okay? All right, just kind of eyeball centering, like so. Yeah, I like that better. I do like that better. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so when you take your page, wherever I cleverly hid it from myself, and you open up your little fold out, it goes into the side pocket, and then it'll tuck under that pocket just like that, okay? And it will be, with all the other pattern paper on there, it'll be a little bit fuller, and it will stay a little bit better, so once everything's on there, but that's the idea. So let's make the back pocket. We've already done this part, so we're going to just repeat the process with all of this, except for we're going to put the tab at the top on the front of this. So this is the back. So let's turn it over to the top. I hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions, always know you can ask me. I'm more than happy to help with anything you guys need. Okay, so a little score tape in the middle there. This will center at about 2 1/16. Okay, and again, we're going to fold it in half. And I'm going to line this up so that the fold is 1/2 inch above, right? We're going to push that down. And I guess I didn't have to measure it while I'm putting it down because, you know, I don't know. Okay. So make sure 1/2 inch. We're just going to use that ruler. And there you go, okay? Just trying really hard to try to make sure everything's nice and even. And, you know, this is just how my brain works, so there you go. All right, so this is the top, this is the front. Here's our little U-turn piece here that we did, so let's just go ahead and glue that down. Now I did, when I did the haul video, I did say when I got my design team package, I had 2 of each of the pattern papers. And I did take 1 each of the cut-aparts and put those off to the side because I try to use them as much as possible in my projects. And then since I had 2 of them, I can use 1 for the back side for the pattern and 1 for the cut-aparts, right? So this one happens to be the back side of some of the cut-aparts. And there you go. So that's going to be the front. This is going to be the back. And I'm just putting glue on there again. Sorry, I know this isn't in camera. My desk sits weird here in my office. I can't wait to get back in my craft room. But I also can't wait to have it like reorganized and purged and simplified and beautiful. So yeah, I've been in that craft room for I think 11 years now. It's time for a redo. Okay, so there's the insert for the back, and that will tuck into the top pocket, and then underneath that tuck, and then that's where that's going to go, and then it keeps the flaps nice and closed, and again it'll be more secure with more pattern paper. Okay, so I do have the pattern papers picked out for everything, and I will do that off camera, but right now what I would like to do is bring in the book and put the pieces into the album and show you that. And then we're going to work on the pockets and the waterfall. Okay. So here is my album, and here are my other pages that I've already prepared. And so we have made the last page. So pretty quickly, you guys have already seen the walkthrough, so I won't open everything up, but here's month 1, month 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we did 11 and 12. Okay, so let's start putting them in the book. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to put it in a 1/2 inch in. This paper here is, I did cut it at 3.5 wide. Okay, with the lay flat method, you kind of have a little bit of a wiggle room, and 3.5 is the size of the spine, but it also works for the pattern paper as well. So because there's a pocket in the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure a 1/2 inch in with my ruler, and I'm going to grab my pencil, and I'm just going to put a light pencil line here, okay? Because otherwise that's going to be in my way. And then we're going to take page 1, and we're basically going to just glue that down, and it's going to be 1/4 inch up, top and bottom, okay? So if you also want to put a little tick mark where you know, I'm going to get my head in the way here, the bottom is, and you can do that too, and that'll help line things up. Not with that eraser. Okay, let's do that again. So I want to make sure that I get this lined up nice the first time. So from the absolute bottom of your cover, 1/4 inch up, and then this is a 1/2 inch, okay? So I want to make sure that I get everything lined up nice, okay? This is the L hinge binding that I love so much, and I've never, ever had a problem with it, and I think you guys will like it. And all I'm going to do is, this is my 1/4 inch give space, so I don't want to put glue there. I do want to put glue on this 1/2 inch, so I'm going to do that. I do not recommend using score tape for this. I recommend wet glue. I recommend good wet glue. And the trick to this binding is to use really good cardstock, like artisan cardstock, and use your art glitter glue. Your wet glue needs to be good, so art glitter glue is the bomb, so that's what you need, okay? So I'm just lining that up right over that pencil line, and I'm finger pressing on that 1/4 inch place, and then I'm going to turn it gently, and I'm going to use my bone folder to kind of make sure that's all pressed down, okay? And that will be your first page, okay? Then you can go back in. Can you believe I did this album in my temporary space with like minimal tools? This is awesome. I can't believe I did it. Okay, so next page, we're going to just butt this up right to the edge here and glue that down. Okay, so we should be all lined up. So once we get that lined up, we basically can just glue these down. So we're going to do that. The last page is glued down different. So if you haven't seen this before, wait till I show you before you glue down the very last page. Okay. And then I'll put the pattern paper on that later. and show you. Well, you have already seen it with the walkthrough video. Okay, so there's that. All right. Making sure that's all nice and lined up. Art glitter glue does give you a little breathing room here, so you can wiggle it around if you need to. Okay, all right, second page is down. Look how pretty that is. Isn't this cute? You guys, I'm loving this album. I'm loving this album. All right, page 3. It's a big one. Okay. Again, lining that up right to the edge. I do have some pattern papers that I'll put on the 1/2-inch gussets ready to go, and but I won't. I'll put those on later. But there you go. Isn't that cute? You guys, this is coming out really nice. I'm loving it. Okay. A lot of pages. Okay, couple more to go. What did I do with my, there it is. All right. Okay. All right, almost there. One more to go, and then we'll put the last page on, and then I'll explain why that one is glued down different. So this is the last one here. Okay. Okay. All right, so that was the 5th page that I just laid down. So we just have to put down the page that we made, and that's going to be the last page of this album. And we're going to do it different because I want this pretty paper to show. Okay, so I have pattern paper before these pages. I want pattern paper after these pages. So I don't want to lay this down the same way because that'll cover it up, right? So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to turn that 1/2 inch the opposite direction, and you can do this easily with artisan cardstock because it does wonderfully with you know, folding the other direction. And what we're going to do is just glue that right to the top of that, so when we turn the page you will still have that beautiful pattern paper showing. Okay, so I'm going to put glue here, and we're going to glue that right on top of that one. Sorry, I know I'm not on camera with that, but I'm just putting glue on the back edge of that. Okay, and I'm just going to lay that down right on top, making sure that I'm not in the score line of the previous page, you know, because I want to make sure my pages turn. Okay. And I'm finger pressing that down and using my bone folder to try to make sure everything is good. Okay, so then you have all of your pages in your book, like so. Isn't that awesome? I love it. And look at all the pretty little tabs coming out, so you can pull the things. Okay, so let's work on that pocket. That one is going to be easy to do. I will do the pattern papers for the pages off camera, and I'll show you that part. All right, so we have a waterfall to make, which is here, and then we have our pocket. So let's look at our pocket first. our pocket, we need a piece of paper. You'll need 2 total that are 9.5 by 9 3/4. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your cardstock in your scoreboard with the 9.5 at the top. What we're going to do is kind of do some accordion folds. So we're going to score on one side of the paper, and then we're going to turn it and score on the other. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it'll make the accordions fold much nicer and neater, and you don't have to fiddle with them so much to get them nice and straight. And I'll show you in just a sec how that's going to work. Okay, so we need 2 at 9.5 by 9 3/4. So 1 for the inside front cover, 1 for the inside back cover. We're going to score at half, and this is with the 9.5 at the top. I'm sorry, half and 1.5. Okay, scooch on over to 8 and 9. Okay, and then what I want you to do is I want you to flip it over, and we're going to score at 1 and at 8.5. Okay, I want the scores going opposite. Okay, so again, score it half, 1.5, 8, 9, and then turn it over this way. Okay, so, and the reason why is because sometimes if your scoreboards are off just a wee bit, if you turn it like this, it might not line up right. I'm just saving you a little bit of heartache. If you score like this and you want to do a score in the middle on the opposite side, turn it this way, because these scores that you already did will match up perfectly, and then you'll know for sure, no matter what, that you're, even if you cut it off just a little bit over here, it's going to throw your scores off. So you want to do that. So then score at 1 and score at 8.5. Okay, so those are the 2 sides. Okay, then go to turn it. This is your bottom. We're going to score at half and at 1.5. And again, this is on the 9 3/4 inch side. And then flip it over like so. And then score at 1. Okay, so you should have 3 1/2-inch scores on the sides and then on the bottom. Okay, then take your scissors. We're going to miter the outside 1/2 inches only, like so. And then what you're going to do is these 9 squares at the bottom, we're going to cut those out, and I'm going to cut the score out as well. So it'll be just cut right on the edge of those score lines. Okay, and cut that square out on both sides. All right, like so. Then what you're going to do, last miter you're going to do is, well, actually we're going to do a little teeny tiny one here, just a little teeny tiny one to make sure everything fits. And then we're going to score, or not score, miter the bottom 1/2 inch, okay? Because that's what's going to kind of, it'll make sense when you put the pocket together. You won't see the edge of that. Anyway, so we've got regular miters here, very slight ones here, and we've got ones here, okay? Then what we'll do is go ahead and fold and burnish. So these are accordions, so I'm going to fold to the inside. Okay, and then out. And then in again. Okay. And those scores, actually, everything should line up and be pretty straight. And they are pretty darn straight. You know, I don't have to do a lot of fiddling with these. I do my rosettes this way. And you don't even have to like press in between each one. You can fold them all and then just press them all at the same time too. Okay. So I'm just going to go from the inside out. Okay. Look how straight that is. Nothing's hanging out. Everything's good. Okay. So then we're going to do the bottom again. And again, you don't even have to do that burnishing in between everything. You can fold them all. And, you know, if you do end up getting them a little bit off, you can always nudge them a little bit if you need to. But I generally, if I do that, do not have to nudge anything hardly at all. Last thing we're going to do is, in the bottom, you have the 3 1/2-inch scores. So between the one closest to the pocket and the middle one, we're going to make a slit up that score line at about 1/2 inch, okay? So I'm just eyeballing it, but I'm just making a slit, just one little slit on each side. So between that first score line, or between that first 1/2-inch score and then the second, okay? So there's that slit right there. So one on each side. Because when we put this together, what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold the bottom up, and then where that slit is, that's where this part is going to fold in, okay? Then we'll lay this down like so. Does that make sense? Let me try that again. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold it up so all of the bottom pieces are folded up. Here's your little slit here, and then here's your tab. So you're going to fold the side in into that slit, okay? So we'll do it on the same side, or on the other side. We'll fold the bottom up, and then in between that slit, we're gonna do that, okay? Then you're going to fold that down, and then that'll go over. So we're kind of accordion these inside each other, right? That'll fold in, and then this bottom one will fold up completely, okay? Now, before we fold it up completely, we do want to get another piece of tape. So let me find a piece of tape. Ah, yes. My Weenie Dog tape dispenser to the rescue from my office here. I'm going to get a piece of tape. What I want to do is I want to put a piece of tape here before we do anything, because it's going to make life a lot easier in just a second. Okay, so we've got our pieces folded in. That one popped out. Let's put it back in the slit. Okay, so we've got the slit right here, and that fold in the side is going into that slit. And then these will fold down like that, okay, over top. So we've got the side pieces in completely now. And then this bottom part will fold up. So we've got the sticky side here that's going to go to the bottom of the pocket. That's going to help that tape trick over the tabs. And before we do anything else, we're going to put a little glue here and a little glue here. And then we're going to glue those up, okay, right like so. And that's going to close those pockets, okay? So this is how it should look now. And because we did that little slit, you can see how kind of it fits into that groove of the bottom, and it kind of closes that pocket up, which is really kind of cool. It works really, really well to close the bottom of the pocket and keep everything contained, but you can still expand the bottom of your pocket. Okay, so that's how we're going to do that. Then this is going to go at the bottom of the pocket. Okay, and we're going to glue that down into the book. So let's grab our book, and let me grab the book. This is going to center right over the top of this, like so. Okay, we have our tape down there already, so we're good to go with that. So we're just going to put glue on. Take that off. Okay, I goofed. One more thing. We can salvage this, no big deal. I need the closure for the waterfall. I just remembered, so I'm glad I didn't glue it all the way down. Before you glue it down, what you need to do is add the closure for your waterfall to the bottom inside of this pocket. I apologize. We should have done that first. Okay, so what I'm doing is I just put a piece of score tape in the middle. I'm gonna grab my ruler because I want it in the center. And so we definitely do that after the pocket is built, because we want it right there. And what this is going to do is it's going to help us secure our seam binding. Our seam binding will wrap around the pocket, which will secure it, and it won't pull on patterned paper. Okay, so that's what you want to do first. Okay, so we're building our pocket. Everything was good. We did glue the corners down to create the pocket shape. We did put our tape on there to help with the tab there. And then the next thing you want to do is set your seam binding. So again, it's 14 inches long, and I just centered it and I put some score tape on there. Now we can glue this, okay? So let's do that again. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad I caught it before I made a super faux pas. I just made a minor faux pas, not a super faux pas. All right, so let's get more glue on there. Sorry. You know, the other thing today too, I got new glasses today, and yeah, I'm still getting used to them too. So I'm having a day today. New space, everything else. Okay, so bring our book in. Let's do that again. All right. Didn't hurt a thing because we caught it in plenty of time, guys. We caught it in plenty of time. So we're good to go. So I'm just going to center that right there, like so. Done. Okay. This is basically covering the whole entire back side, but you will see the cover, the inside of the cover inside of that pocket. So that is the other reason why we put the cardstock on the cover before we put this pocket down, because we want to make sure that it looks real pretty, right? Mom wants a pretty baby album for the wee one, right? Okay, so that part is done. All right, we've got that on there. Next thing to do is to put our pattern paper on top of here before we put our waterfall on. 6 3/8 by 8 1/8, okay? All right. All right. So now that goes on top of here, like so. All right. Okay, big top pocket. Okay. And then while I'm thinking of the top pocket, there is an insert that goes into the pockets. So I made one for each one because that's what I had left for pattern paper. So I used a piece of natural artisan cardstock. I cut it at 6 by 8. Obviously don't score it. I did add a tab to the top, just like I did all of the other tabs. Okay, so it's on the front there, and put the pattern paper over that. The pattern paper is 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. I did use the coordinating solids to the what was left over to make the mats. So the yellow on this one is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then the green is 4 by 6. Okay, so and that will tuck into this pocket just nicely, and then that tab sticks out, and voila, you have a great pocket. All right, so the waterfall is, I got my little pieces. So these are all 5 7/8 by 3/8 for the gussets. I have another piece, 14 inches of seam binding. I have my waterfalls here. Then I've got my matting, and I've got my cut apart. This was a 4 by 6 cut apart, and I used a piece of the pearlescent paper. This is 5 7/8 by 3 7/8, and then I cut this down to 5 5/8 by 3 5/8. Okay, so that'll go on the top there. So I will do that in a little bit. I will do that in a little bit. We've got our thing here, and then we've got our waterfalls. So for the waterfalls, in total, you will need 2 that are 6 by 10 1/2, 2 that are 6 by 9 1/2, and 2 that are 6 by 8 1/2. We're going to put these in our scoreboard, and we are going to put them on with the long side, score at 4, turn it, score at 4. You're going to do that for all of the pieces. When you get done, you will end up having different size spines in each of these. Okay, so 1/2 inch, 1 1/2 inches, and 2 1/2 inches. So all you do for all of them is put it with the long side at the top, score at 4, turn it, score at 4. Okay, so all 3 pieces. So again, you'll need 2 of each of these sizes. You'll use 1 of each of these sizes for each waterfall. Okay, take that off. I'm going to get this out of the way, and we're going to fold and burnish. And then we're just going to stack these guys and make a very nice, simple waterfall. I love making the waterfalls like this. I always had a problem if you cut things off just a little bit with all the different, you know, pieces of paper to put together to make a traditional waterfall. I always had problems with it. And when I stumbled upon this aha moment, I really, like, this is amazing. Okay. So then what we need is a grid. Let me grab my grid. And I'm going to just use my grid to measure. I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to lay the one with the widest spine here. I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to line up my score lines on a line here. I'm going to take my next biggest one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on that spine. This will be the 1.5 inch spine. Okay. And then I'm going to line this up at the 1/2 inch mark. Okay. You can use a ruler. You can use spacers. You can do this on your scoreboard. However you choose to do it, you just want a 1/2 inch gusset in between. Okay. So now what you'll have is that. Okay. We're going to repeat. All right. Like so. Make sure that's good. So now we have our piece like that. So that's the waterfall right there. That's it. Boom, done. So now that we have that done, then you need your seam binding. And what we're going to do is put it on the back, on the spine here, right in the middle. So again, we'll use our ruler, and it should be 3 inches on both sides. We're just going to put our seam binding down, like so. Add a little more score tape, and we're good to go with that. And then we'll take our book, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it down, and I'm going to glue it so that there's enough border around, you know, evenly on the sides and the top. And then that will fold over. This will fold up. Let me make sure I'm on camera here. And then that'll tie together. And then you can see the seam binding will be secured by the pocket, and then it'll also be secured by the waterfall. So it's going to work out perfect. So I'm going to turn this around just so I can see kind of the borders where I'm going to glue it better. All right, I goofed, and I apologize for that. I put the seam binding in the wrong spot, and I put a disclaimer so that you guys won't do what I did. So I took it out, and it worked out fine. I was able to get it out. I used my handy dandy Cricut spatula, and I was able to get it out. So where did I put it? Here it is. Okay, so what I really, really wanted was to put the seam binding underneath this. Okay. So I took it out, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to put it on the top of this page. And I think after this is done, I'm going to be happy because apparently need to have a break. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up and center that. Okay, like so. And then we're going to put a little bit of score tape there. And then what we're going to do is place our piece of pearlescent paper. All right, put that on there like so. Voila. And then that will secure also the seam binding, and it won't pull on paper from up top, okay? That was the whole thing I was trying to get away from. I didn't want to pull the paper on the top. And then we have our little cut apart that will go here. And I did cut that down a little bit smaller because I wanted to show more of the pearlescent paper. And that'll go on top. So I'll glue that down. And it'll be about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, like so. Okay. All right. So there's that. Then this, I'll cut this or trim it and tie the knots later, but that'll tie like that. Okay. So that is the tutorial. I will put my little yellow strips in between on the gussets of this. So I still have those to do. And then I did, like I said, I have papers cut for the gussets. And then I do have my pattern papers ready to go to finish the back page. But that is basically the album. So let's do a really quick run through of what we got. But this is our album. Here's our spine, our back, and of course the walkthrough, it'll be all decorated and everything, but we'll have our album, we'll have a pocket with a pull-out, we have a waterfall here, and then our pages, and then all of these pages, the little pulls just come out. That opens up, you have your photo mats, and then this just tucks into the pocket, and you could put a lot of other things in the pocket and then just tuck it underneath, and that's what keeps everything closed. Okay. And there's the other one, and it goes like that. So you can see that if you, it would flop if you didn't have these guys in here, but this also gives you another opportunity to put photos. That just, right? So then this one just tucks into the top pocket and goes in like that, and there's the album. Okay, so I will finish decorating, and then you have seen the walkthrough, so it'll be all finished, and then you end up with, this is month 12, and then you have baby's birthday. So thank you so much again for watching. I really hope you liked the tutorial. I love this. I love the ribbon. Look at this. Let's tie it together. I got to show you. Isn't that cute? Oh my gosh, you guys. I can't stand it. I love it. Okay. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you again soon with more things. All right. Stay crafty, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.